Good morning. And good morning. My name is Ann McNeil, and I am the Master Wealth Builder, helping you to build a stronger and better life and business. And we have a very special Think and Grow Rich show for you today. Yes, actually, it's going to be very different. And the reason why is because we're asking you to use your imagination. Napoleon Hill tells us that your imagination is actually the workshop of your mind. And as we talk about this phenomenal principle, which is the fifth step toward riches, there consists two different types of forms of imagination that you can use. And what we're going to ask you today to do is to engage with us in the chat and share with us how do you use your synthetic imagination, which is something that is already created, where you take something we talked earlier uh, in preparation for the show about an example of synthetic imagination could possibly be Cirque du Soleil, where you have an example of the circus mixed with ballet, Cirque du Soleil. And the creative imagination was used to create a different product. How do you use synthetic imagination? Your creative imagination, of course, is something that you are blessed with from the infinite. You know, the exercises that you do, and you get these inspirations and these urges and these hunches, and then you act on them. That is creative imagination. But how do you use it? What our guest today is going to help all of us understand exactly how she is using her imagination. And our guest is none other than, yes, you guessed it, an individual that has been on our show before, but she's also been very, very active with us in the chat as we come on and share with you week to week. And our special guest today is none other than Miss Johnnie Lloyd. And Johnnie is a financial guru. She's an inspirational speaker. She's also a certified coach with the Napoleon Hill Foundation. And that is where we met, actually. She's an international bestseller, and her mantra is you are fire when you are focused. So help me bring on and welcome none other than Miss Johnnie Lloyd. Good morning, Johnnie. How are you this morning?
Good morning. It's such a pleasure to be here. And as always, this is my place that Saturday morning. This is what gives me energy. So being in the chat is really important. And don't take that lightly, guys. Make sure you connect because this is the opportunity designed especially for you, especially
Well,
today.
exactly, because see, now they get to ask you questions and get to comment on your comments. And so we're going to make this a very different type of show today because, again, when you think about your imagination, we're going to talk about how do you use your imagination, Johnnie. But can you share with our audience a little more about who you are and what you do?
Okay, so I'm actually a serial entrepreneur. So people say, what is a serial entrepreneur? It's a person who has taken their imagination and they have created more than one stream of income because I believe you should build more than one stream of income. The other thing that I love to do is I love helping people. I am a navigator. Is what is the person who guides you. I am not responsible for your decisions, but I am here to support the journey that you take. And we do that with the 17 principles. So those are two major things. And then I have a nonprofit. And the reason for that is during the pandemic, you get clarity in crisis. And my clarity was to stop putting off things that have been in books forever and start doing them. So I started a nonprofit called Rise. It's the acronym is Run, RUN, and it's Raised Up Nation, RAISE, because you can rise yourself. However, it's about raising up others, moving forward, doing that. So, Anne, it's a pleasure to be here, and I'm so excited because there's always facets of us, and we're going to talk about how to tap into your facet. What is the facet you want to tap into today?
Absolutely, absolutely. But before we do all of that, I must bring on my co host. And so, first, I'd like to introduce Mr. Yes, Kim Global, Mr. Galen Bingham. Good morning, Galen. How are you this morning?
Good morning. Good morning. Yeah, this is going to be a fantastic conversation because not only do I get to hang out with you guys on a weekly basis, but Johnny Lloyd has been tearing up Clubhouse, and I get to hang out with her pretty frequently as we talk about these same principles. So I know for a fact that she's got a deep, deep well of information to share. And one of the things that someone snuck into my book over last night because it wasn't here before is this page 94, where it says that you can build wealth through the aid of laws which are immutable. And I had to take a second look, and I wanted to look up immutable just to make sure I understood what they meant. And immutable means unchangeable, unchanging. These laws exist and they work whether you believe them or not, whether you understand them or not. And Napoleon Hill even says, first you've got to learn these laws in order to be able to use them. And so one of the things I'm really excited about is how deep Johnny's knowledge is of these laws. And I just can't wait to hear in the chat the number of people that we're impacting. I see Doretha is there, Ruby is there. I see you guys. Tashana, we want to hear from you how you're using creative and synthetic imagination. So let's go ahead and get into it. I'm excited to hear from Johnny.
All right, but first, before we do that, we must hear from the doctor, Dr. Peter A. James. Good morning, Peter. How are you?
Good morning to you all. Excuse me. I'm glad to be here. Excited for our special guest. Excited for this imagination chapter of Think and Grow Rich. You know, you all have said some phenomenal stuff already. I just want to get my popcorn and just listen, but you're pulling me in, so I got to talk a little bit. Now, let me start out first by talking about what Anne just talked about as Cirque du Soleil. Cirque du Soleil did not come up with this whole philosophy that we talk about and that we love so much. They combined two great aspects, the circus and the ballet, as Anne just mentioned. I also think about Uber and Lyft. Uber and Lyft did not come up with this phenomenal service. They imagined two different services coming together, a taxi and an app, and they brought them together. So now I ask all of you who are listening and watching today, what do you have in front of you right now in your possession or that you are aware of that you can bring together and put this imagination, put this together in order to fulfill your destiny? Because Napoleon Hill says in his book on page 98, the only limitation is that which one sets up in one's own mind. And so if you can get rid of those self-limiting or disempowering beliefs, anything is possible. Now, my challenge to you all, including my host and guest, is, are you ready to get past your own limitations? Anne McNeil.
Well, one good way to do that, Peter, is to go back to the principles. And we know that imagination, desire, faith, autosuggestion, and all of these principles all work together. So, with that thought in mind, Galen is going to share with us the 13 principles and how they all connect.
Yeah, as we say every week, the thing that we really enjoy about this is that it is part of a system. It is part of an entire philosophy. And the fact that these all weave together, one of the things that my daughter loves is she loves puzzles and she loves putting things together. Let's take a listen to how these pieces, these principles fit together to achieve the kind of success that each of us that each of us might say that we want.
Number one is desire. Napoleon Hill said that everything starts with a burning desire, a compelling reason for doing what it is we do. Step 2 is faith, having belief in our ability to attain that which we desire. Step 3 is what we call autosuggestion. Autosuggestion simply means being very intentional about the things that we are pouring into our thoughts, into our brains, and into our consciousness. Our brains, our minds will receive everything automatically, but we have to work extra hard to make sure that the positive things are what we are feeding ourselves, because those positive thoughts are going to turn into positive actions. Step number 4 is specialized knowledge. No one person knows everything, even about whatever their particular area of expertise might be. And the value of the MasterMind principle is using the specialized knowledge of other people. Step number 5 is imagination, the workshop of the mind. Everything starts with our imagination and our thoughts, the burning desire to transform those thoughts into our reality. In order to do that, we have to take a look at step 6, which is organized planning. That is how we crystallize our desire into action, organizing ourselves. Having the thought and not acting on the thought isn't going to get us anywhere. We have the thought, we go through the organized planning to transform that thought into action. Step number 7 is decision. What Napoleon Hill said is the mastery of procrastination. Napoleon Hill said that the antidote to procrastination is simply to make a decision and then move on that decision. Step 8 is persistence. We have to have a sustained effort which is induced by our faith in order to achieve our goals. One of Napoleon Hill's books I love, even the title, 3 Feet from Gold. Those people who became rich during the gold rush in the wild, wild west days didn't do that because they were necessarily smarter or had better information than anyone else. It's because they stayed just a little bit longer. Sometimes people left when they were just literally 3 feet from gold. So hanging in there, being persistent, is step number 8. Step number 9, the power of the mastermind, the driving force. None of us can accomplish anything on our own. Everybody, I don't care who you are, from the most prominent person to the person who might be considered the lowest on the totem pole, everybody has someone who helped them get to where they are. And the power of the mastermind is being able to use those influences around us, use the thoughts, use the knowledge, use the exploration of other people to help us in achieving our goal. Step number 10, the mystery of sex transmutation. This title can be a little confusing, but essentially what the mystery of sex transmutation means is that we oftentimes in our society think of sex as being purely physical. It is absolutely physical, but what Napoleon Hill teaches us is that sex also has an emotional element, and that sex is the strongest of our desires. That if we can take our sexual energy, transform that into positive, creative influences, it can propel us to new heights. And so we spend quite a bit of time talking about the mystery of step 10, which is sex transmutation. Step number 11 is the subconscious mind, which Napoleon Hill tells us is the connecting leap between our human mind and the infinite intelligence, the source of all thought, the source of all creativity. Conscious mind, we spent some time talking about how we use that through the influence of autosuggestion and what we're feeding into our mind. Step number 12, which is the brain, the broadcasting and receiving station of thought. Final step number 13, the sixth sense, the door to the temple of wisdom. This is the final step through which infinite intelligence may and will communicate voluntarily without any effort from or demands by the individual. The principle is the apex of the philosophy. It can be assimilated, understood, and applied only by first mastering the other 12 principles.
Wow. That's it. It's just that simple. So let's bring Johnnie Lloyd back and talk about how she was first introduced to this book and another example of how she actually on a day-to-day basis use her either creative imagination or synthetic. So Johnnie, let's start with first, your first introduction to the book.
Well, my first introduction to the book, actually, I was in with my parents. My parents were a part of a multi-level selling. They were in Amway, and they were rising up, and their whole life was changing, and all of that. So, what ended up happening is that's when I was first introduced to the book. I kind of ignored it. I was young, and I saw what they were doing, but it wasn't applicable to my life. And then, so when it really tapped into my life, when it really started using it, is when I was homeless. When I was homeless, something snapped in me and said, "This is not where you're supposed to be. This is not where or how your life is supposed to be ending or beginning, even there." And so that's when I started using the principles. So the other thing I'm going to say is this: on a daily basis, Annex mentioned, how do I take these principles in my life, especially the principle of imagination? First of all, imagination is actually the image of what you desire. What are you what do you see? When you shut your eyes, what do you see? So if you were to close your eyes right now, what do you see? And so put that in check. What do you see? A greater business, a greater vision. What do you see? And then you tap into that energy. And so there's two sides of imagination, of course, and it's the creative side, which is a deeper level of imagination. And then it's the synthetic side that Anne mentioned earlier. And that piece is based on what we know, what we've been through in our lives, all of those things. Sometimes, have you been somewhere and you said, you know what, if they would just do this better, or if they would just change this, this would flow better? You're using your synthetic imagination. So don't despise those thoughts. Take those thoughts and jot them down, because it could be the thing that you're transmuting into cash, like Uber or like Circus Soleil. Take those things and take it to the next level. And that's what I'm doing in my life. So, one of the things I do, and I would recommend other people can really do this, it makes a difference, because what I found out is my history was impacting my synthetic imagination and putting me in a place of I can't, right? I was looking at my environment and the things I had been through and dealing with a can't mentality. Well, that shut down my creative imagination. So, what I asked myself, and I would like you to put into the chat, is put these words in. How can I? Don't say I can't anymore. Say, but how can I? How can you do this? And that will tap into your synthetic and your creative imagination, because it gives you a way to fix it. It gives you a way to be the answer. It gives you the way to tap into infinite intelligence to download a response that you need to fix that thing. But you need to write it down. I'm just saying. So that's where I am. And it makes a difference. Go ahead and do that. I see. Okay, I use my creative part of my imagination to form a way I want my business and life to pay out. Absolutely. And then as you see it, please continue to expand on that. Continue to expand on what you see, because we are looking from a point. You don't want to stop there. There's so much more ahead. Our imagination is limitless. Did I say limitless? Yes, limitless. So look at it from that perspective.
Thank you so very much. And we want to encourage everybody, please continue to put your comments in the chat because we are engaging you. Yes, this is your show. We come here for you. And like Galen said, it's not a show. It's really a conversation about a principle, but it's also an opportunity to change the way we look at ourselves, the way we look at our thoughts and our actions or lack of action. Johnny and I were talking earlier about what do we each do. She journals. She talked about taking her book and on one side giving a question and on the other side giving an idea and answer, but using her imagination to actually move from the imaginative form but to the action. What's the next step and the next step and the next step? And I was sharing, and I will continue to do this and again and again and again. I wrote this book. It's called A Daily Date with Myself. And I was sharing with Johnnie earlier, and I said, she was talking about, oh, write 10 things. I start off the day with saying, okay, what am I thankful for? What are the desires of my heart? My journal thoughts, and then asking myself to give me 10 ideas, 5 ideas. But I don't stop there. I take those ideas, and I was sharing with Peter earlier that we were blessed this week to receive a $50 million contract in Miami International Airport. But it all came out of an idea that I carried for 30 yes, not days, not weeks, not months, but years. But I continued to do just a little. And God blessed with the universe and a team of people. We were awarded that. But what's more important is, what are you doing with your ideas? Are you writing them down like Johnnie said? Journal. But don't just stop with a journal. Take the next step and the next step. Bring together a mastermind group of individuals to help hold you accountable, and then you hold them accountable for the next step, from the imagination to the next step, to the next step. And the author tells us that the synthetic imagination, when you use it, and people ask, well, what's the difference? What's really the difference between the two? Well, actually, the synthetic imagination, your synthetic imagination, is something that already exists.
Mhm.
And you take one thing and you mix it with another thing. So I'll take my idea for the book. I just used to journal a regular open book. But I realized that by taking the book itself, synthetic, my ideas, synthetic, but if I use my creative imagination, I came up with the process of how I journal. What am I thankful for? And list the things. What am I, the desires of my heart that I desire, the things that I desire, whatever it is, material, non material, whatever it is, and I write those down. What are the opportunities that I want? And I require my mind every single day. 5, 10, my goal is 10. I may not get there, but for the mere fact that I have a process, what's your process? That's what this imagination principle is about. So right now we're going to bring on Galen first and then Peter, and we're going to have them dialogue about, first of all, Galen, how do you use your imagination, and what questions you have for Johnnie about how she used hers?
Yeah, yeah. So very, very a tool that I use, and I want to talk to Johnnie about this because you're a bit of a coach as well. So I want to see how this compares to what you do. But with my clients, very often they have these goals that they want to achieve, or they have a way of life that they want to create for themselves. And I really try to help them focus on what's grounding their thought process. And so there are 3 specific questions that I give them, and it's very important that you answer these questions in this particular order. Number 1, the first question is, what do you want? So let's get very clear on what it is that you want. What's your vision, to Johnnie's point? What's your vision of what you want? Then the second question is, where are you now? Let's get very clear reality-based description of where you are now. And then the third question is, how do you get from where you are to where you want to be? Now, very often people will ask and answer those 3 questions, but they do it in an order that's not grounding them in opportunity. Most people look at, where am I now? Then they look at, where do I want to be? Or actually they say, where am I now? What do I need to do to get to where I want to be? And when you take that last approach, it's grounding you in the obstacles that you currently face, rather than in the approach that I'm suggesting that I leverage with my clients. It's grounding us in, what's the opportunity? So again, where do you want to be? Where are you now? and how do I get from where I am to where I want to be? So it's really, really important for my clients that we follow that process in answering those questions. Johnnie, I'm curious as to whether or not you use any tools similar to that to activate your creativity when you're faced with an opportunity or something that you're trying to create.
Okay, so one of the things I do, and I love what I wrote, because see, I'm one of those people. I'm jotting the notes down. So if you're not putting things in the chat, you're missing it, or writing things down as well, because there's some nuggets that's being dropped, and I want to just openly celebrate Anne. That was not she dropped a bomb, y'all. But if you have not congratulated her, please make sure you do that, because what you celebrate, you draw to you. Okay, so I'm gonna go back to Galen's question. So what I heard and what you said was the opportunity cost. What are you willing? Where are you now? What do you want? Right? What is the goal, the vision, all of that? And so what I do with my clients is I use this concept saying, intensify your intention. Let's intensify your intention. Okay, and I'm gonna give you a real example for me. Right now, I have this amazing client, and after I got off with them, talked to me about, you say you want this. What are you willing to intensify on your intention? So this is what I did. I said I was going to lose 20 additional pounds. I gave myself 12 weeks because I do a 12-week program, Galen. And so what I said is, to intensify my intention, because I've been playing with this 20 pounds for a decade almost. So intensify my intention. I said, if I don't meet the goal, then I'm going to cut off my hair to the gray. Well, my hair's long. Okay. I'm not cutting off my hair. So to intensify my client's intention, we select something that we know that they don't want to do. And so it keeps them focused in such a, I think it's your fire when you're focused. The reason I intensify, I put fire under their intention so that they say, I'm not doing this. This is so against what I want to do that I'm not going to do this. So therefore, I am going to make sure I do the other thing. Because whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. The key is can. The key is even in the imagination realm, when you look at it, yeah, your mind is capable of it. You have creative ideas where you have synthetic imagination and creative imagination. The key is, will you use it? See, I look at everything. When we look at and even bring up the 17 principles with my clients, I don't necessarily say, well, this is Napoleon principle 1, 2, 3. I take the principles and apply them to their area. And then I ask them questions. And then I ask them, one of the questions that Napoleon Hill asks is, what are you willing to do in exchange for the goal? Because there is going to be a payment of your time, your energy, and your resources. So what are you willing to do for that? So I do that, and I give them accountability markers so that we make sure that they're on target. And then there's ramifications, and I give them, they call it homework. I call it assignments. Cute, and the one thing I would like to mention here is this. I think everything happens for a reason. When you look at the book, imagination is chapter 5. It is the 5th principle, right? So it's between specialized knowledge, which we need for synthetic imagination, and then it's beneath organized planning, because which is chapter number 6. 6 is connected to us as humans, right? On the 6th day we were created. So connected to that. So what happens is, what are you willing to do to make sure that what you desire, what you're visualizing, comes to pass? What are you willing to do? So that's what I work with my clients in that respect, Galen.
I love that. I love the piece about what are you willing to do. One of the things that hit me last week, I think we were planning for our show for last week, and I got another conk upside the head when Anne said, you know what? It's not think and be rich. It's not think and dream rich. It's think and grow rich. And grow means you have to do something. And growth usually comes in uncomfortable places. That means you've got to be uncomfortable as you're getting from where you are to where you want to be. And that means actually doing something. And so that question, what are you willing to intensify in your life in order to achieve this thing that you say that you want? I think that that's really, really important. And I'm going to start using that in my practice. I think that's a great addition to a phrase that I say a lot to my clients. They usually hate me for it, and they end up firing me over it. My phrase is usually either do it or stop talking about it.
I love
I really don't care which one you choose, but we're not going to continue to talk about doing this thing someday and then not show the action that demonstrates that you're really serious about doing this thing.
You know what, Galen? Because the thing in that is your dream can become your nightmare. If you don't act upon it, you become frustrated and sitting in it.
Mm.
You know, it's like water. Water has it takes the form of whatever you put it in, right? Water does. The key with water, though, is it also has these healing capacities, whatever you put it in. But the key with it is when you leave it in a jar, whatever, and you leave it open, it becomes stale. It picks up everything in the air. It does all those things. So the key for you, I love that statement, is that when you don't move forward, right? Even if you fall forward, falling forward counts. There's some failing in it. So falling forward counts. So it can cause you to feel like the dream is not the right thing. And like Ann just mentioned, she said 30 years she's been working on that. Have you been believing for something for 30 years? And are you still holding on to it? Most people won't give it that kind of intensity or, move forward on it. So I love that. Thank you.
Peter, what you got, man? I could stay here all day.
Man, I still got the popcorn here, Galen. I am just listening. I'm taking it all in because I'm soaking it all in and applying it to my life. I'm applying this conversation to what I have going on. And I love what someone put on Facebook about mindset, right? I'm big on mindset, Galen and Johnnie. I'm really big on individuals shifting their mindset. And as you had mentioned earlier, Johnnie, about the previous chapters in Think and Grow Rich. And if you notice in those previous chapters, Napoleon Hill was first able to address our mindset in desire, in faith, even in our auto-suggestion. How are those three really able to affect our mindset? Because when it eventually comes to our imagination, listen, we can dream and visualize anything, right? And we should. However, when roadblocks happen, when obstacles happen, when hurdles happen, is your mindset strong enough that you can go through them, around them, or over them? Let me say that again. When roadblocks happen, when obstacles happen, when hurdles happen, is your mindset strong enough that you can go through them, over them, and around them as they come about? You see, the imagination is pretty much the first start to stop to dream this up, to put your synthetic imagination and let it go to that creative imagination. But when the rubber hits the road and you are moving forward and you hit those obstacles, is your mindset strong enough to overcome them? And that's the beauty of this Think and Grow Rich, as Galen has said. We're continually growing to strengthen our mindset so that we can support our imagination. Ooh. How is your mindset supporting your imagination? Right? And so now, Johnnie, I want to bring you back in and ask you that, especially as you talked a little bit about your journey and your road. Can you reflect on a time frame when you had an obstacle And you know that my mindset helped me to do that. It helped me have to overcome a challenging situation, a challenging scenario, because I think that may benefit someone who is listening right now.
Yeah, actually, and I'll give a great example of there's we've been in my mind. I've been doing a podcast for the last 5 years in my mind because I knew it was supposed to be. And it's funny that it's legacy moments because legacy is what we drive for. Because legacy is about moving from success to significance, right? So the key with that for me is I had to sit back because during the crisis, and let me just do a pause. Life is full of crisis.
Yeah.
So in crisis, find clarity. Take your mindset and find clarity. What are you supposed to learn in this crisis? And what do you gain? And what can you do? Right. So during the crisis, I put it to the side. So then my daughter, who said she would never, did I say the word never? That starts with an N. So be careful what you say. You never do. Never do a podcast. Popped in one day and said, "Hey, Gigi," she calls me Muti. She said, "Muti, let's do a podcast." So when your children or even you do that, don't freak out. Don't say, "I told you," and don't do all that. Just, celebrate, do a silent celebration inside and enjoy the moment. So that's the thing. There's always something for me. I'm going to talk about me and look at your life. Isn't there always something that you're reaching for that's greater? If there's not, make sure there is. There's something that drives you to greatness. And what drives you to greatness is stretching you. And what stretches you is not necessarily seeing everything right now, is moving forward and knowing that there's greater ahead. Always go for greater. Look, put the pundits to the side because you'll always have them. Put the criticism to the side because you'll always have it. Drive for greater. So this is what I'll tell you. To think is to create. To think is to create. I am always thinking. Always thinking is to create, right? I didn't say to text is to create, to watch TV. I didn't say any of those things. I said to think is to create. Now, if your area is TV, because that's the next move for us, I believe that there's a show in us. So I'm working on that. So that's the key that Dr. Peter is talking about. So I'm transforming my mindset and stop looking at remember, not I can't, but how can I do this? Where do I need to be? Who can I help that's in this area? So that I can learn on the sideline why I help them in their vision. Those are the keys that I would do because those keys matter. Because when you sow into other people's vision, your vision gets an opportunity to grow as you think and move forward. You're not competition. We're in the world to complete one another. So shift from that.
Yeah.
And then the last thing I'll say is this. Right now, I'm going through a time of focus. So I'm going to explain why my 2 nails out of my 10 nails are kind of a little interesting. The reason for that is the Pareto principle works. So I'm remembering every time I look at my hands, whatever I put my hands to, because remember I'm saying I'm having this issue with focus because there's a lot of things going on. So I'm reminding myself that 20% of my actions are going to give me 80% of what I need. So when I look at that, I said, okay, God, my imagination, what is the 20% that I need to do today? That's going to give me 80% of results. Because you only get a chance to do time once. You can get more money. You can't get more time.
Love that.
I hope that answered.
Good stuff about overcoming and even what the things that you're doing to continue to grow. I think oftentimes there, Johnny, that this book gets a bad name because of the word rich in it. So you know what? Let's take out the word rich and just think and grow. Think and grow. And those three words right there, think and grow, are enough to challenge ourselves on a day in and day out basis. And Ann McNeil, I kind of want to bring you back into the fold and ask you, how are you continuing to grow? It sounds like you're growing very nicely. But now, even how do you continue to grow even after some small wins? And what does your imagination continue to take you as you move forward?
Listen, a picture is worth 1,000 words. And for those who are listening and you cannot see, I'm holding up my book entitled A Daily. Daily. They're called daily disciplines. Daily disciplines. Daily disciplines of exercising my imagination. 5 businesses. 5.
Hmm.
And it all started with thinking and growing. We got to have the richer, Peter. We can't take that word off.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So those of you, whoever you are, that cannot relate to that last word, this is not for you. Not right now. Why? Because the author started with, how much money do you want? What is your desire? Is it health? Is it family? Is it wealth? Whatever it is, it's for you. That's up to you. But how do you take your imagination and exercise it? And I am really serious. And for those of you that follow us, we need you to put something in the chat. I don't want to start calling your names, but I will do that. So let's do that. Okay.
Please.
Johnnie Lloyd in the chat. She's off camera. Tashana says, shift from competition to completion. Thank you. Facebook users, if you'd like to have your name showing, just go to StreamYard and register, and we can show your name as you give your comments. But Doretha, Imelda, and we have, of course, Mr. Wyman Wimbush. Let us know in the chat. We're each talking about how we exercise our imagination. But I want to remind all of us, this is a phenomenal show. Deshauna says, always go for greater. Absolutely. But I want to remind us that we are listening to Miss Johnnie Lloyd. And Johnnie, I just want to I have to continue to give you kudos, because Johnnie professionally has mentored and served thousands of military members and families during her 20 plus years. I'm not going to tell you how many, because 27. I'm sorry. I said I was not going to say that. But over 27 years dealing with the federal government as a leader, traveling globally to support the members and bases. And so today, our imagination and how we use it. Johnnie, if you can share with our audience how they can reach you, so that as we continue the program, we have some people that came on a little late and are just trying to figure out, what are we talking about and who are we talking to? And I just wanted to remind them that we're actually talking about, how do you go from your definite chief purpose? How do you go from your desire to a plan of how you're going to get that desire? And Johnnie made an excellent point talking about the fact that organized planning comes right after this. But what's your specialized knowledge of how you're going to use that imagination, whether it's creative or synthetic, to actually achieve your goals? So, John, if you can share with our audience how they can reach you, we're going to start wrapping up, but we want to make sure that people know how to contact you.
You can reach me. First of all, thank you again. And reach out to me at www.johnnie, JOHNNIE.Lloyd, JohnnieLloyd.com. I'm sorry. It's www.johnnielloyd.com. And it gets you all to all my social media links. I am on doing something on special on procrastination on YouTube. So when you go out to that website, link to the YouTube channel and subscribe. But the key is to get the information. Don't take it. Make sure you use it. Even today, use this. It works. So that's it, Anne. Thank you.
Yes, Johnny, it only works if they work it.
Now you know it.
And they must use their imagination once they get that information from you and work it. So, speaking of working it, we're going to have Peter come back and share with us some information about our annual meeting that we're hosting in the beginning of the year. Peter.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Great conversation, phenomenal conversation around imagination. It's easy for us to try to do all of this stuff that we're talking about by ourselves. It's easy for us to start by ourselves. It's easy for us to get stuck, have our own disempowering beliefs, self-limiting beliefs, right? So because we can get stuck with our own thoughts and our own mind and then prevent ourselves from moving forward, I am passionate about intentionally surrounding myself with others, even virtually, who are like-minded, who are also thinking and growing rich, in order for them to continue to pour into my mind as I move forward towards my imagination. So now I have to ask you, who are those individuals for you? Who are those individuals who you're continuing to surround you to help uplift you, push you forward, hold you accountable? And if you got nobody, we got something for you. And so every year, at the beginning of every year, we have an accountability meeting. Yeah, you can go ahead and bring it back. We have an accountability meeting where we come together in a group to begin planning for our new year. We bring our families together in order to help uplift, hold accountable, push, celebrate even the previous year as you continue to move forward. And if you've never experienced anything like this, highly encourage you to take a look at the chat on Facebook or YouTube and sign up for this January 7th and 8th meeting in 2022. And I'm bringing my whole family this next year because that's how important it is to be able to strategize for your new year. And listen, if you want to begin now, Ann McNeil, we even have some Friday calls that they can even take part of right now moving forward to be able to take part of accountability meetings beginning right now. You should not do this journey by yourself. You should not, because you may get stuck. And when you do, who's around you to help get you unstuck? Ann McNeil, who's around you to get you unstuck?
Well, I tell you what, Peter, every Friday morning, 13 years now. Yes, 13, Galen. Why are you calling me a Johnnie, Peter? Yes, 13 years at 7 a.m. Eastern time every Friday morning. And Brittany, if you can put the link in the chat so those who are interested can just click the link. And as a matter of fact, we're going to move the time backwards. Yes. Well, listen. For those who are in the chat and you come on every Friday, thank you so very much for joining us. But what we do is everybody gets 1 minute. How many minutes do they get? 1 minute. And in that 1 minute, we'd like for you to say, what was your aha from your reading? And you can read any part of the book. We're not all in the same portion of the book. And then we ask you to give one thing you want us to hold you accountable for every week. So just imagine the number of people who started, and I'm not going to call any names, but we have some special people who a year they said, oh, I'm just here, I'm not reading anything, but I'm here for support, I'm just listening in. And then all of a sudden, slowly, they read one thing, maybe a sentence. And then slowly things start to happen. And then all of a sudden, an avalanche of success. So we do that every Friday. You get 1 minute, 1 minute. And the reason why we're considering moving the time backwards a little bit maybe about 15 minutes, so we go to 6:45, only because so many people have started calling in. It is so phenomenal, and we know everybody. Well, not everybody, but most people are on their way somewhere, whether it's to drop off kids or on their way to work. And then we also stream it live. No, well, yes, we do stream it live into Facebook group. So you can go to our Think and Grow Rich Facebook group. You can join and you can listen, or you can call in. But either way, we give you an enormous amount of opportunities, if you will, to use your creative imagination to achieve your goals. But listen, the goal is up to you. So with that, we're going to go around to Peter first and then Galen to share with us how can our audience reach you, and if you can tell them a little bit more about yourself, and if you have anything that you are promoting that you'd like for people to connect with you.
Yeah, good stuff. My name is Dr. Peter A. James, and you can find me at shiftyourmindset.com, shiftyourmindset.com, or find me on any social media platform at Dr. Peter A. James. That's at DrPeterAJames. I just have to challenge you all as we've had this discussion today. You know, what are you dreaming of? What are you imagining for your future? And then how are you putting it into play? How are you moving forward with that goal, with that dream? And then lastly, if you're getting in your own way, what are you doing about it? Because sometimes we doubt ourselves. We stop ourselves from those dreams because of ourselves. Now, what are you beginning to do about it? We've talked about some strategies to be able to do so in this session today, in this on this call, and so now the ball is in your court. But don't do it by yourself. We've given you some avenues for that as well. Galen, how do we stay in touch with you, sir?
Absolutely. So just a little bit about me. I've already shared, I just really I have an issue with people talking about doing things someday. That's like my least favorite word in the entire English vocabulary is someday. And so if you are tired of hearing someone say, hey, I'm going to achieve all these amazing things someday, or maybe you're tired of hearing yourself say, uh, I'm going to do this someday. That's what I do. I help people remove someday from their vocabulary. I am the CEO of killglobalcoaching.com. I help bake permanent success into work and life. A kill is an oven that gets up to 3,000 degrees to either bake pottery into something permanent or to melt steel, an alloy, so that you can mold it into something more productive. And one of the things that I got from this conversation that I'm going to start using is what Johnnie said about what are you willing to intensify in your life in order to get what you say that you want. Because if I'm the one working the hardest in this relationship, then this is not a very good relationship. And we need to change something about it. So I've enjoyed this conversation, and I would encourage anyone who's serious about removing someday from their vocabulary to reach out to me at KILN Back to you, Miss Ann.
Oh, I like the sound of that, Miss Ann. Ooh, another show. Okay, all right. So we have challenged you as you listen to this podcast, as you watch this on whatever platform you choose. What are you going to do? That's the question. But more importantly, what do you want? Galen talked about someday, and I put in the chat. There's a place, Galen. I don't know if sure if you heard of it, but it's an island called Someday Isle. It's an island where people go to be unproductive. And anytime someone talks about the Someday Isle, you can stop right there listening and just ask them about the weather because you already know they're not going to do whatever's going to follow that. But if you're interested in doing something with your creative imagination, especially if you desire to use your self confidence, you can connect with me and join us first on Fridays. Yes. And the reason why I say first on Fridays, because if you're not willing to read the book for free, you're not willing to connect with me. No, 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 no. I used to take any and everybody, but I realized that people who don't have a dream and don't have a desire, you can't help them. I can't either.
Mm.
So give them time and connect them with a place they can go to find themselves, find their desire, and find the confidence to connect with a coach or a consultant or get help in the achievement of their desire. You can reach me by going to my website at annmcneil.com, but I would also encourage you to go and subscribe to my YouTube channel at Ann McNeil, but also pick up the book, use your creative imagination, and do something with it creatively. Journal, like Johnny told you, you can even get a blank journal, put your ideas on one side and then your actions on the other. You can also get a copy of A Daily Date with Yourself and have a date with yourself. But what we're going to do now is we're going to wrap up the show. We're going to ask all of our co hosts to come back on. And if you have any kind of closing comments, starting with you, Johnny, we want to give you an opportunity to have the last words. So, any closing comments?
Okay, for me first.
Yes, you first.
Okay, what I would like to do is to actually challenge you to be instead of just doing, to challenge you to be more creative by in the morning by your bed having a pen and a piece of paper and start journaling the ideas. That is the most connection we have with infinite intelligence when we first wake up before you really move for your phone. So that is my key to you, because we can't do it for you and you're more than enough. And you can do this. It's in you. Don't die with your potential inside. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, they say that's one of the most richest places in the world is the graveyard. Okay,
Graveyard.
Galen.
Yeah, if I were to think of something I can do to challenge the audience, it would be to take the first step. The first step is always the hardest because after you take the first step, then the second step is just a little easier, and you take the second step. Well, the third step is right there, so you might as well take that too. And if you're not careful, you might trip over the fourth step. But it's that first step that's really hard because we build up in our minds how scary that first step must be. In actuality, it's just a step. So that would be the thing I would challenge the audience to do over the next week is to take that first step off of any type of inspiration or hunch that they might receive.
Awesome. Thank you. Dr. Peter.
Yeah, good stuff. Good stuff. As I reflect on this imagination chapter, the thing that comes to mind for me is if you can dream it, you can achieve it, right? If you can dream it, you can achieve it. But going back to my earlier comment, what is your mindset like relative to that dream? What is your mindset like? Is it like, yeah, I could do it. I, I would love to do it. It would be great if I could do it. But now what's the mindset? Is your mindset like, I'm getting it done? It's going to happen. It is happening. It's in the process right now. And there's a big disconnect if your mindset is not that. And if it's not that, now's the time to ask yourselves, what do I need to do to shift? What do I need to do to shift? And we've spoken about lots of tools today. Now, again, as I mentioned earlier, the ball is in your court. And
All right. All right. Well, we're going to take this creative and synthetic imagination to actually, let's take it to what Napoleon Hill says we should do with it. He says we should take it and consider it as the workshop wherein are formed all plans created by your mind. And this impulse, this desire, this inspiration, this hunch, this nudge, this urge, it takes shape, it takes form, but only if you act on it through your imagination. So until next time, we want to thank you for thinking and growing richer with us, and we will see you next time. Have a good day.